You're with Julian on the Brando, a very quickish review of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, Aquaman 2, which has finally emerged onto streaming. Aquaman 1 was one of the few relatively bright spots in the whole DC universe that came out. Probably it wasn't in the same bracket as Wonder Woman, but it was a reasonably good film, and that made it probably the second best of the DC films that came out. And it also was the most successful financially. It got, I think it did like 1.2 billion or something. And after this much convoluted, protracted rollout of this film, they ended up, unsurprisingly, doing about a third of that box office for a film that probably cost a lot more, 215 million, and they did about 400 million at the box office. The film itself was so monumentally delayed because of, I think, one reason: Amber Heard. So the studio and the people making it doubled down on the fact that they were not going to remove the female lead Amber Heard in the wake of an enormous amount of public backlash in support of Johnny Depp and against her. What they've done is so, like, if you do something that I disagree with, but you stand firm and hold on to what you believe, I'm going to have some respect for you. But what they did is wear the storm of keeping Amber Heard and then reduce her role to nothing, which is like the worst of both worlds. No one's going to thank you from either side. And the really crushing thing is, the film could have used more Amber Heard. Particularly the awful opening 20 minutes, which I nearly turned the film off, which showcases Jason Momoa as a daggy dad, where the baby's weeing on him. The whole sequence is him as a single dad. And then they sort of go, oh yeah, but he is actually married to Amber Heard, who walks past in the background. It's so badly done that they sidelined her so front and centre in the movie in such a manner when they focus so much on his family and the fact he's got married and had a kid. And then just pretend he's a single dad, but then go, oh yeah, but he is actually married. Actually, after that appalling opening, I actually found myself semi-enjoying this one. It was nowhere near as bad as I thought it would be. I can understand why people don't like it, but for me, it had a number of things going for it. The story wasn't all that bad. We get the villain that hated him from the first film is kind of possessed by this ancient evil that lives in the ice in the Arctic, and the whole thing revolves around climate change. And the villain is actually trying to force climate change to happen faster by burning all of these ancient fuel sources that the Atlanteans of Aquaman realised was poisoning the air and poisoning the water. He tries to burn it all to poison everything. So I thought the story itself wasn't too bad. The number one thing it's got going for it is production design. It's got fantastic visuals above the water and below the water. Above the water, it's some like high gloss imagine Jurassic Park, and below the water it's pretty mind bending. I thought and even the ships and everything, the ships with the whirling tentacles, I thought the production visual design on this was absolutely top notch. The fact that this film cost less to make than the Marvels looks like it was made for a few $100,000. The VFX was terrible, very unimaginative as well, but here it's widescreen, high colour, and continually visually arresting. I didn't think the Jason Momoa character was as good as the first film. I thought they made him too cocky this time. And I was so glad when the baby exited in the early bit of the film and didn't come back towards the end, until the end, because that was killing me. Things that have got the one character has got so much better, and I think the star of the show here is Patrick Wilson as Jason Momoa's brother. He played it so straight in the first film as the brother that didn't want his brother to steal the kingdom from him. But here they allow the character to have... Like, Patrick Wilson can be great, and here he's allowed to be subtly funny. He's a much more interesting character this time around. I thought a lot of the action sequences were actually really visually imaginative. And some of the humour was amiable. Not all of it from Jason Momoa, but I thought, Patrick Wilson and also the Yahya Abdul Mateen as the villain Batmantra was pretty decent. But I thought Randall Park, who plays the right-hand man of Black Mantis, an unwilling, complicit character, I thought he was really strong as well. So there are a couple of people. It really needed that feminine edge. The first film had really strong parts for Amber Heard, who was fine, wasn't great, but fine. And for Nicole Kidman, who was great. Nicole Kidman seems to have been reduced to a CGI Nicole Kidman for a few moments here and there. And Amber Heard, it's like they've come along with scissors and just chopped her out of the film. Which is just, it needed that sort of feminine edge to it. But I was expecting it to be dire. I just watched The Marvels and gave that a 0 out of 10. I found myself enjoying this. It is visually incredible. In fact, it's visually better than the first film. And unlike the first film, which had some of the most exposition I've ever seen in a comic book film, where the plot was so convoluted they had to spend 5 minutes every 20 minutes with someone standing there telling you what was happening, they didn't go down that road this time. So I thought that was, apart from the narration at the start where he talks about having a baby, which is terrible, but for the rest of the film it plods along as a relatively simple, easy to, like, it's a lot more focused than the original. So I got enjoyment out of it. I thought it was a perfectly decent home watch. So I'm going to give Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom a surprising 7 out of 10, which in the modern era is, you know, the only films like Guardians of the Galaxy 3 have got over 8 from me. Everything else has been below a 6, so 7 is actually quite high.